So hello friends, in this video we will see how we can transfer data from parent component to child component. Basically, we use @input decorator to send data from the parent to child. So let's check how we can do this. So we have two component here, child and parent, and let's check parent component first. So in the parent component, I declare a ID parent of type number, and there is a method do increment. Whenever this method will be called, this ID will be in auto increment one by one. So this is the basic code of parent, and in this HTML we can check. This is the parent block, and here inside this there is a button. On click we call do increment method to increase the parent ID, and this is the div for child block, where we already write a selector of the child component app child, and this ID parent is assigned to this child ID, and whenever this ID parent will be increased by clicking on button, this will be assigned to the child component ID. We will see how we declare this ID on the child component. So let's check child component. You can see we import input from the Angular/core, and we use @input decorator with ID variable, and this ID is used in the selector tag used in the parent HTML component. So this is the basic ID, and in the HTML we print this ID. So this HTML is bind in the parent component like this with the use of the child selector, and whenever this ID parent ID is increased, it will assign to the ID which is declared in the child component with the @input decorator. So you can see whenever we click the button, this ID parent will be increased with the method we already write in the TS of this component. This method do increment, and it will assign to the child ID with the @input tag we declared already on the child component. So let's run this and we will see how this is working. So this is the result UI of the particular Angular project. So you can see this is parent block and child block. Initial value is 0, and on the click of this increase ID, that method will be called and increase the parent ID element, and whenever parent ID is increased, it will assign to the child block ID, and this should increase automatically. So whenever we click here, it just increase one by one. So this is the data flow from the parent to child with the @input decorator. Hope you like this. If it helps, please like the video, subscribe the channel.